evening, good morning, and welcome to this week's session on Women of Significance in STEM. And today we have with us Dr. Jenine Beekhuyzen to discuss some of her secrets and strategies and things that she's doing to make a positive difference in for girls and women in STEM. And we're going to explore some of the ways that she's making a difference in spite of all the struggles and the biases and everything else that we're seeing that is stopping a lot of young girls from even choosing careers in science and technical environments. And then once they get there, how do we help them to stay there and to excel so that they can become the leaders and decision makers and influencers that we need to bridge this this diversity gap that we have in this industry. So welcome, Jenine.
Thank you, Leah. I'm super excited to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you for making the time to participate, because as I was saying earlier, my quest as a leader development coach, particularly focusing on our thinking frames and how do we set ourselves up for success from a self-determined aspect, as opposed to trying to fix things in the system. There's lots of things to fix in the system. I'm really looking at what can we do to set ourselves up for success from that individual, how we think, how we feel, how we're making meaning of our world. So today we're going to be hopefully lifting the lid a little bit on yourself, Jenine, but perhaps you could sort of set the frame a little bit. I mean, you have achieved so much in your professional life already and been with numerous awards in the different things that you're doing with Tech Girls movement and creating ways and programs for girls and women to excel. But I'd love to hear a little bit, sort of in your words, of what you do and who you do it for and what problem you are solving.
Oh, I love it. I think you've framed it so very well. And so I founded the Tech Girls Movement Foundation 7.5 years ago. And we've now had more than 10,000 schoolgirls come through our program and do some hands-on activities in STEM. Whether it's for half a day in their school, whether it's as part of our 12-week competition, which about 4,000 of those girls have come through the 12-week competition, and they've developed real-world solutions to real-world problems, which is fantastic. And so we start at 7 years old. We invite girls as young as they want to be to come and join us up to 17. And we give girls the agency to find a problem that they care about in their community and then to develop their solution to it, whatever that might be, and then to build that solution and then to pitch it and then to try to get it out there. And we match all of our girls with a female mentor like yourself, someone who's inspiring and advocating for women in STEM. And that's a really important relationship for the girls. And there's something about an adult they don't know who takes them seriously that just gives them a lot of confidence. And we've had some really incredible stories around mentors and teams, and it's been ongoing for many years, some of those relationships after just joining us for 12 weeks, which is amazing. So there's that part of it. And so girls solving the problems they care about, having mentorship and someone to guide them and give them some advice and support along the way, and really being involved in hands-on stuff. I mean, we need to get our hands dirty and we need to break stuff, to be honest. We need to fail. And I don't think it's about failing. It's about trying it and getting it wrong, and that's okay. And knowing it's an experiment, and experiments fail till you get them right. And that's absolutely okay, because you can't really get it right until you get it wrong, I would say.
Oh, and I heard the best perspective on science was that in science, we cannot fail. We actually can't, because it's all feedback that then informs our next. Oh, Jenine, that saves me every time, honestly, because there is no failure. And if we can just like switch our thinking from, from that can save so much time in emotional turmoil, can't it? you know?
No question. No question. Particularly when we're working with schoolgirls who they often have this image of perfectionism they feel they need to live up to, and obviously that's absolutely impossible. And so how do you manage that and find a way of living in that world and being okay with who you are, and you know what you need to learn from, and we all need to learn. I love learning every day. I realize that that's something that, particularly in lockdown, it's challenging to think like, what is this all about now? What do we do if we don't have work or what we did before? And I think for me, just being able to keep learning every day is an awesome thing.
And it seems that you've adapted really quickly as well, like, because a lot of your work has been face to face, and there's so much to be gained in that physical contact. But without that, we have to resort to the internet. We have to, you know, Zoom becomes your best friend, and so adapting quickly and learning how to communicate in that altered environment is another set of skills, isn't it?
Oh, it's an incredible change, to be honest. Delivering online, as I'm sure you know as well, you do the complete opposite of what you do face to face, pretty much. So face to face, you move around a lot. You're very animated. You do all this stuff. You have whiteboards. You do none of that online. It's quite unusual, I find. And interestingly enough, though, with Tech Girls, when we originally designed the program 7 years ago, it really was designed to be online to reach as many girls as possible wherever they were across Australia and New Zealand.
And is that in addition to school, or do you get it as part of their science curriculum?
Great question. Often it's a bit of both, depending on the school. We have some schools that have all their year 8 students who do the program, or all the year 4 students. We have a couple of them this year who do the program. So it's 30, 40, 50 students across those grades, and they do it in class. Others do it as lunchtime drop-in sessions. We have others who are homeschooled, so they, I guess, work their schedule around that. Others do it on weekends if they're from different schools and their friends. So it really is a variety of ways. And we provide a scaffold of a curriculum. Here's 12 weeks of things to do to come up with this in the end, and you find your way to figure it out in terms of what timing works for you, because we know life happens along the way. Like 12 weeks is a long time in a young person's life, so we realize that, you know, you might work a whole weekend and then not work for 3 weeks, and that's totally fine as long as you can do the things you want to get done. So yeah, it's really flexible, and they find all sorts of creative ways to solve problems. Like, we don't teach them to code per se to build the app, but they watch YouTube endlessly. They find the resources they need, and the key is, once they find a problem they care about, they will do whatever they can to solve the problem.
So they find ways to learn how to code.
Absolutely. We point them in the right direction, but absolutely help them to go and find the resources. Again, sometimes it happens in class, otherwise outside, but some of our biggest successful teams, I guess, have been ones that have been really proactive and just teaching themselves, and off they go.
It is amazing. There is so much resource. I mean, you know, IT and the internet has totally revolutionized learning, and I think it builds a whole other body around what it means to be the self-determined learner. And I know that is something that is, you know, being very much ingrained and taught into new, you know, teaching curriculums, and trying to teach teachers what that actually means and how to actually, you know, do that, because that isn't something necessarily that we grew up with.
Definitely not. And I think it's a really empowering tool used in the right ways as well. We ran a workshop with the University of Technology in Sydney, and it was a one-day workshop with one of our partners, Rubric, and they brought in some developers from the US, and we built a chatbot essentially. So these were girls who were 8 to 12, I think, building a chatbot, if you can believe it. And so they got there on the day, and we had like 30 of them in the room, and they were working away. And as it turns out, they were doing all kinds of things to the system and code that adults don't do. They crashed the system. They broke it. Anyway, these developers from the US were like, oh my goodness, this has never happened before. What do we do? And they're sort of really freaking out. And it's like, they're kids, that's what they do. And so they came up with an alternative sort of solution for the session. But there was one girl who I'm sure was 10 or 11. She sat there for like half an hour and literally debugged the whole thing and found out how it was broken and fixed it. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. So for her,
that is incredible.
That was just amazing. So yeah, it's really nice to have those experiences and just give them that opportunity to see their potential.
And so what was it that inspired you? Or, you know, 7.5 years ago, I mean, this, you know, must seem like, you know, just sort of par for the course now, but what was it that inspired you into science and to take that, like, most of us who start out in science have got, there's something that drives us to want to open the lid and understand how things work. I know when I took on biochemistry, it was, I want to understand life at the molecular level. You know, I want to understand how life works at that level. And but you know, you've taken the how it works and now you're bringing it into the world. You've created a platform to take something that's inspired you. But what was it that gave you that initial inspiration?
What an excellent question. And I'm always very interested in how people interact with technology, and I feel that technology should make our lives easier, not harder. And often that's not the case. And again, technology is a way of changing the world, of creating the future. And I guess I was fortunate to be at a point in time when the internet kind of came about into our homes, and I was starting at university back in the 90s, and I decided to study information technology. And I did that because I'd finished a business diploma, which I really enjoyed. I was just didn't feel challenged enough, but I thought information technology, it's something where you're always going to need to learn something. There's always something new to know. And what an awesome thing to do. So yeah, that was a real appeal, and I'll never know everything, and there's always something new, and that's really inspiring. And I've met amazing women along the way. I've discovered systems, I guess, and how systems work and how important good systems are for our lives and how they can make our lives better in so many ways. And then, yeah, having great role models along the way who've been few and far between, but the ones that are there have been hugely significant and have set me on the path that I am now, who are my lecturers back at university. And yeah, we've done really great work together, but it's about, I always say it takes a village. We all need to work together, and it's all about all of us collectively finding our strengths and ways to complement each other and leverage the networks that we have and the relationships we have.
So lifelong learning, that's, you know, all the greats, the Bill Gates, everybody, it's like if we're not doing at least 5 hours a week for ourselves, for learning for the sake of learning, then we're not growing. But it's also then applying the technology, not just, you know, solving a problem for solving a problem, but, you know, what is a problem, I hear you say, you know, that's meaningful to you. And I think that's that connection, because this generation, you know, that's coming through, they're chasing meaning more than money. All the research is telling us that. They'll work for less money if they're getting that sense of meaning from their work. And I think this is where, you know, I love some of those, you know, older philosophers where, again, it's like, what purpose are you finding in the process? And this is where, again, like really embracing and working with the system and not against it, and collaborating and communicating, you know. And this is where often science and technical people have, you know, that stereotype of the lone laboratory technician, or the geek that, you know, just sits quietly in the corner. You know, you're really dispelling that myth, Jenine, aren't you? You know, and how important is that? Because without communication, without collaboration, yet we're not going to solve the big problems, the big complex problems fast enough.
Absolutely. And the big problems are never solved alone. No matter if there's one name on it, it's never solved alone. There's always a team of people working on things, even if one person is a spokesperson. So it is about collaboration. It's about finding your strengths and working with people who complement your weaknesses, because admitting we have them, what are they? And that's what a real team is. And it's about diversity. It's about, and that's not just about gender, it's putting people together who, if we all look the same, we all think the same. So we need to have that diversity of thought. We need people working together who represent different interests, have different backgrounds, have different experiences, to get a full view of what's needed. It's not just necessary, it's essential. And for companies, it's a competitive advantage these days if they can find a way of having that building diversity into their strategies to retain staff, for instance, like their HR strategies, because, it's hard to get the best people now. And sometimes there's not much difference between what's on offer. And I know the whole landscape's completely changed with COVID and lockdown, certainly people losing their jobs and so on. But even more important than ever, companies will need to find a way of attracting the best people and keeping the best people. And I think finding ways of giving them opportunities to, give back to the community, to mentor, which many of our partners do, which is great. And we find out that our mentors from those companies keep coming back in droves year after year, because their companies support them to get involved in the program, to mentor every week, to turn up and give a bit more, and have a really great experience within their work time.
And isn't that the sign of something that is organically working, when you have the choice element again? And that's again I just love that self-determination theory, autonomy, efficacy and connectedness. And the efficacy is not, can you do it well, but do you believe you will do it well? And clearly that just oozes from you, Jenine. And I'm curious to hear, where did you first learn that? Like, were you a firstborn child? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Oh my goodness, I've never had anyone say that to me before. And to be honest, it's actually the complete opposite. I guess I was brought up in an environment where I had to be resilient. I literally had no choice, and for whatever reasons. And that took me in certain directions, which, to be honest, surprised me, I guess. And I guess in some ways, not growing up, not thinking you're kind of enough, in some ways kind of forces you forward. And I'm sure
so that was where, so it was the I'm not enough record.
So. I'm sure we all have a bit
of
that.
We all have that. We all have that, right? That's that imposter, or all of that. But again, this is where that's not stopping you today. And that's, I believe, Jenine, if we can make a pill or just find that way.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's not a pill, it's up here. It is about, about where we put our focus and about who we surround ourselves with. And I just saw you light up when at the way that so many of your mentors come back year after year, and they are supported too by their organizations, because that's a voluntary arrangement, isn't it? It's not like you pay the companies to give you mentors, or
no, they often give us money, actually, the other way around.
There you go.
To support us, which is great to keep us going and running the program.
Yeah. So coming back to the I'm not enough, neural pathway then. So what's your technique, or how did that sort of no longer become a thing? Or is that still the thing that drives you? Because it could be that too.
Great question again. I'm not sure if you know, but on Queen's birthday, I was given an OAM.
Yes. Congratulations.
Which is really nice. And I guess that's one of the points where you're like, I probably am enough, where you can kind of maybe stop thinking about that, to be like really blunt. It was like, oh, wow. It was just a sort of oh, wow, that was a big thing. And not that I ever expected that by any means. It was a total shock, and I'd never even considered it. But I guess it was a moment where I was like, oh, actually, I have done enough on some level. So that was kind of nice. And I guess every award you get and things, and again, I don't really apply for awards, but it's nice. Every one you do get is really like, wow, it's really nice to be recognized for that. But coming back to your question, remind me again, I just got off track.
Yeah, just in terms of the growing up and learning that resilience was was your track, it needed to be, but there was this sense of I'm not enough, and in some ways that has driven you to make choices.
I guess, to be really honest, my father passed away when I was 5 from cancer, and I guess I always thought life was really short after that, because he was so young when he passed away, and I really didn't expect that life was going to be very long, because that's what I'd experienced. And so I thought, just give stuff a go, kind of. In some ways that has definitely made me who I am, which in some ways I'm grateful for, that something nice came out of that. But it certainly has, I guess, pushed me along to go, give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? because, you know, life's probably not that long. No, not to be morbid or anything, but just to give it a go. And I probably have taken more risks than most people because of that, in a way. So you take the good, but it's paid off. And I've
And
been
what,
able to help people.
yes, and this is the thing, what's the worst that can happen?
Pretty
And
much. Yeah.
and another I guess approach is then, and if that happens, can I handle it, you know? And often that can be a leveler as well. And you know, and I guess this is the thing, it's the taking risks and worrying about what the consequences will be for that. But so tell me a little bit about some of the what would be the biggest challenge that once you overcame that, suddenly, you know, the seas parted, and or you know, has it been a series of challenges? And
I think there's different challenges at different stages, and they all seem enormous at the time. And I think they tend to grow as you grow. In my experience, they tend to get bigger and bigger. But in a way, they're all kind of the same magnitude because of where you are at that point in time. You know, setting up a new foundation. I mean, a not-for-profit. I would never have thought I would set up a not-for-profit. I didn't even really know what that was, to be honest. So, I mean, all the trials and tribulations and all those kinds of things, setting up a board, all the accountability. And then for us, we've had a whole bunch of IP challenges with, we've had 2 big legal challenges in our not too distant past, which we were fortunate to come out of positively, but they've been going on for like 5-6 years of our time we were here with one of the biggest companies in the world. So, you know, using the word superheroes, and it was on the project a while ago, but yeah, we've had challenges that were enormous. Like, you literally can't use the word superheroes. It's like, wow, that's in like everything we do, and we have 80,000 books out there with that word on it. So this stuff has been going on, so enormous challenges, and to be honest, it has been not easy. But I've got a great support network of people, and I think that's absolutely key, of having your people you can go to and spreading them around so you don't use them all at the same time, but having people you can go to for different things, and just say, being honest, I think, and say, just listen to me and give me a hug and just say, it's going to be okay. You definitely need that.
And be willing to be in those difficult conversations, in those difficult situations, and trust. I mean, 5-6 years, that's a lifetime. That's almost your whole business time, you know. But it's, I guess, in another way, it's a compliment, because they see you as a significant entity to worry about it, right?
You're right, but absolutely. Take it as flattery, right?
Well, you know, and I guess this is why, you know, we do, you know, IP and you know, all the different elements of the business side of the business. So again, it's like, you know, you've got something significant going on, but of course the amount of resource and energy and all of that it takes to deal with stuff like that.
It's exhausting, the emotional energy, I guess.
Yeah.
And just the day after day of waiting, and the enormity of it, and often feeling alone. And that's the life of an entrepreneur, I guess. You feel very alone a lot of the time, because it's up to you to sort this stuff out, and it's really not anyone else's problem. So if you've got a network of others in similar situations that you can call on, I think that's super important.
So on that then, in terms of, you know, looking back then, say 10 years ago or 15 years ago, if you were, you know, this is often a favorite question, isn't it? What would you have told your younger self, or what would do you know now that you wish you had have known then? I mean, would you have used superheroes had you have known the, you know, the implications down the track? I mean, but it's, yeah, it's...
I love the question. To be honest, I probably would, because I am a little bit of a troublemaker, and if I hadn't known how it would turn out, I probably would. It's good to stir the pot a little bit. And to be honest, it was a really ridiculous whole thing that happened. So it just sort of pointed out how ridiculous sometimes the law is, and those kinds of things, and people's egos. So yeah, I probably would. But looking back, I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule, to be honest. You're never going to get things 100% right. Get it 80% right, and that done is better than perfect. And that's what I mean by giving it a go. It's 20% is probably not going to work out. Just expect that, And to be honest, no one actually knows about that other 20%. It's kind of in your head. It's the stuff you expect that no one else sees. You know, I expect the balloons to turn up in my event to be amazing, and they don't turn up, and no one actually knows they're supposed to be there. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know? So the stuff we do to ourselves, and I'm a massive fan of Brené Brown. I've read many of her stuff, and I've done a course of hers recently, and around just vulnerability is hard, but being okay with being not okay, and just dealing with stuff on a day-to-day basis, and just knowing everything's not going to be okay, and that's okay. I think telling my younger self, and just ride with it, and find people, and find tools, and find good relationships, and find fun. Need fun.
Need fun. And I think this leads very nicely into my question on values. And, you know, and this is where there's so much work done in leader development programs. You know, what do we value? What do we give our attention to? So you've got your personal values, and then you've got your business values. And if there's not a match there somewhere, it's not going to be a likely success story. And we're seeing, or we're hoping, that companies are moving more to values-based matching. And I'm sure innately you're doing this in your program, Jenine, where you're matching girls with mentors. You know, it's more on that, on feeling states and energy, and whether there's compatibility. That, but it is good always to articulate what those values are as well. So what would you say is your top 3?
Well, I can give you 2 if that's okay, because
yeah, sure.
Again, I did this Brené Brown course, and they gave us a page of values, and you had to pick 2 out of them all. I think I came up with 10, and then it came down to 2, because that's all we were allowed. And it was amazing when I finally, you're right, articulated. It was like, wow. And it helps me make so many decisions in life now, because I realize if people don't align with my values, then that's okay. We just don't work together. We don't spend time together, or whatever that means. And it's kind of easy to work things out now. So to be honest, for me, it came up as courage and kindness.
Love it. Courage and kindness. Yeah, courage. Yes, you, again, that pours out of you, Jenine, you know, just in terms of like going at, like, just doing a lot of stuff and having a lot of impact, and not being in that perfection bubble, right? And it's very people centric. You're really putting heart into tech. You know,
people deserve it. Our young people deserve it. They deserve it so much. Our girls deserve an opportunity to see what they're capable of. And I know myself, no one ever really thought I could do much, and that's kind of sad that there's so many girls, I think, in that situation. So I want to at least tell them they're awesome if no one else ever does, and to show them that, you know, here are some tools that you can take on whatever level works for you, and create whatever you need to out of that, and hopefully have some choices in life with the skills that you've got and the confidence that you get.
That's amazing. Yeah. And, you know, I guess if, you know, we've got a couple minutes before we wrap up now, but so, you know, I guess what do you see too in terms of the hinge that will swing the biggest door? If you had that magic wand, you know, what would like make it more possible for more girls to have this experience and to experience their own potential, isn't it? This is what I'm hearing. This is the essence of what you're doing, that it is an opportunity for them to experience their own potential and what could be possible for them, but what they bring to it. So what they can like mentally and physically bring to something. So it very much is the translation of the technology into something useful. But in terms of, if you had a magic wand, what would that one thing be?
Absolutely. And it's about young people solving problems from a young person's perspective. That's what's so important. I don't know what problems young people have, so how can I even begin to solve them? They experience things very differently to what I do. And actually, I did published a book not very long ago, which is called 5 Things You Can Do to Engage Girls in STEM.
Oh,
And there are 5 things, and it's around autonomy. So A is for, so it's AEIOU, just to make it really easy for us. So A is around autonomy and creating leadership opportunities for girls where they can find ways to, you know, express those skills that they have. E is about ethos, so having a growth mindset and believe and growing confidence from that. I is about involvement and hands-on activities, so they can actually get their hands dirty and, as we were saying, break things and try different things and learn new things. O is about what we call otherness, so it's about computing with a purpose and having a reason for doing what we're doing, and we align our projects with the Sustainable Development Goals, for instance. And then U is about usness and you know, about group think and the reason why we need diversity, and we need to have different people represented at the table. And so all of those things, to be honest, they're not actually specific to girls, but I just happen to know they work for girls, but I think they work for boys as well. But it's about finding a meaningful way of engaging in STEM and having something that you care about. That, I mean, there's so much in the world and we're so bombarded by information overload. And one of the things you mentioned in your intro, if I can go back, you mentioned how did we sort of change structures and things, and my view is we need a critical mass. We need a critical mass of young people coming through the ranks to get into roles that will actually get into management positions that can actually change policies and structures. My view is that's about a 30%. We've never really gotten above 25, so we've never gotten really close, but it's definitely achievable. And I know, you know, if we think about how many tech jobs there will be and STEM jobs in the next however many years by every account, we have the young people community coming through who will snap those up in an instant.
So 30% is the tipping point.
That's my view. I've read lots about it. That seems to be what we need to. But that does
seem so achievable. Like it's as opposed to when, you know, the 50% still seems.
I don't think we need that much. No, 30's enough to have influence.
I think we use more words. You know, that whole thing of.
And we have a strong presence in a way. Like we make it known when we're in the room, and we make things happen that we care about.
And this is the other point, isn't it? That one of the big things, if you think about Sheryl Sandberg and Lean In, when, you know, she talked about how important it was for women to take a seat at the table and actually to speak at the table. So I think, as you say, that message is loud and clear, and more women are doing that. And that's where a lot of the leader development work has been, in developing the voice and the posture and the courage and the kindness. And well, I think kindness now, a lot we're seeing with the likes of the Jacinda Ardern's and the new regime of leadership that you know, because again, if we can't see it, we can't be it. But what I see, Jenine, is that you are being it so others can see it. And I want to just congratulate you and thank you for being that beacon and that source of energy and the how-to. So not just waving the flag, but actually creating the path and the superhighway for the superheroes to drive on, right? So that's
it. We all have a superpower, right? I don't know what your superpower is, but we all have a superpower that gets us through those tough times, and we pull it out, and whatever helps and whatever works. And we're all in this together. So we, like we said, it takes a village. So we can all make a change, and once we work together.
Oh, this has been awesome, Jenine. I really thank you for your time today. And I'll just also get the details of where people can get that book as well. Make sure that we've got that on the link. So is that on Amazon, or?
You can get it as an ebook from Amazon, absolutely. Or if you go to my website, JenineBeekhuyzen.com. If you just Google 5 things you can do to engage girls in STEM.
I'll make sure that's on the link as well. Thank you so much today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.